go. Great. So it looks like we're recording, which is why if anybody is watching this who was at the October 3rd viewing, this doesn't look like it did that night because I didn't press the recording button correctly. So we're going to do take two, and we're going to do this this tour like it was October 3rd. Okay, so the first thing that I would do if we were here talking to all the people that were there is I would have done this. Hey, look at that. And I would have said, you might have noticed that I just changed my virtual background and left the U of R campus. We'll let Evelyn stay at U of R campus for the walking tour, okay? Okay. So, I'm just about ready for it to start. Oop, that's not where I want to start. See, it still doesn't work right. Let me try it one more time. Here we go. Share. There. Why is that happening? Let me see if I can just go backwards. There we go. Okay, now we are set. And this was what I really wanted to do to start off for this evening. I wanted to share the screen with a screenshot of the live Zoom tour on October 3rd. As our three people here, four of us would all say, I'm sure it was really, really exciting to be with this large group of people, especially to have some of the original players in the story joining us. And you'll be able to see on the screen there, we had RJ Alcala, we have Larry Fine, Bob Dardano, and Bruce Woolley. So it was really exciting. We're sorry that they're not here with us tonight as we're recording it, because we did have a great time with them, especially at the end when there were lots of fun questions and discussions. But we're going to make it work. Okay, so we're now going to go officially to the beginning of the tour, and everybody has to pretend that it is October 3rd. So I want to formally welcome everybody to our LGBTQ 5th Historic Walking Tour, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Gay Liberation Front, resistance in the 70s. Have we come full circle? And the first thing I would like to do is thank our partners. We've got the City of Rochester as a partner, the Landmark Society, the Out Alliance, the Human Rights Campaign, Shoulders to Stand On, and we also have a very special partner with us as well. We've got ImageOut with us as a partner this evening. So thank you all for being partners with us. So you can check out that Evelyn's virtual background will be changing as she travels around campus during the tour. And I now have a video with Paul and Evelyn, and it's because, as you know, we're not really at the campus. This is virtual, but it was really fun for Paul and Evelyn and I to go over to the campus and do a couple of videos so that you could get the feeling of being at U of R. So here we go.
Hi there. I'm here with Paul and Evelyn on Fraternity Row. And since it is during the time of COVID, we're not able to get together with you together. So we're just going to have them do a little introduction to our historic walking tour. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Welcome, Rochester, to the University of Rochester campus. This is where gay liberation and the gay liberation movement began here in Rochester. We're standing in front of Todd Union, where the first meeting of the Gay Liberation Front took place on October 3rd, 1970. You have tremendous history here in that that's where the Speakers Bureau began, that's where the empty closet began, and that's where the first actions done by the Gay Liberation Front were planned and then executed at the top of the plaza.
Great, thanks.
Hi everyone, Paul Allen from ImageOut. This year, October 8 to 18 online. Hope to see you then. And thanks for coming along to our tour of the U of R campus.
Okay, thanks.
So now, Evelyn, I think you can pretty much take it away.
The University of Rochester was founded in 1796 by the First Baptist Church of Hamilton, New York. In 1846, the university moved to Rochester, and a new charter was awarded by the Regents of the State of New York on January 31st, 1850. For the next years, the college, for the next 10 years, actually, the college expanded its scope and secured its future through an expanding endowment, student body, and faculty. The first campus in Rochester was downtown in the University Prince Street area, which is the current neighborhood of the arts. Major growth occurred under Benjamin Rush Rhys from 1900 to 1935. And during this time, George Eastman became a major donor and supporter.
So what I forget each time I'm doing this is to thank Evelyn for all of her wonderful work. You will notice as we're going across campus just how much work she did to put this together. And I also want to thank Cynthia Hauk, my colleague here at the Landmark Society, because Cynthia put together all these wonderful little tidbits, architecture and other fun things for me to share with you. So really what you're hearing is coming straight out of the mouth of Cynthia Hauk, not out of my mouth. So here we go. The main buildings on the U of R's River campus, which was dedicated in 1930, are examples of the Greek Revival style in 20th century collegiate architecture. They feature brick construction and stone trim and details. Architects for the original campus quadrangle and buildings were Gordon and Kelber, Rochester's largest architectural firm for much of the 20th century.
Now in 1955, the separate colleges at the time for men and women were merged into the college on the River campus. This 1967-68 map of the River campus is the way it was in 1970. There are indications on this map of planned future expansion, including Wilson Common.
So we've got another video coming up. And again, you know, we're all sort of very casual and leisure and hanging out in our homes, most of us. So we figured we'd take you back to the campus. We'd take you to Todd Union and give you a little bit of exercise as Evelyn and Paul walk into Todd Union. So here we go.
Action.
Yes,
Big director here. Action.
on the first floor to the main lounge.
On October 3rd, about 100 people walked into Todd Union in 1970. 15 years ago today, 16 months after the Stonewall Riots. They walked into the first floor lounge where I am presently standing, and students and townies came to the first meeting of the Rochester Gay Liberation Front, the GLF.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Todd Union now. Todd Union, there we go, is one of the original River Campus buildings. And it's situated on the north side of the Eastman Quadrangle. Its restrained design features a recessed entrance portico with columns. The building was named for businessman George W. Todd, who originated the idea of purchasing Oak Hill Golf Course for use as the University of Rochester's campus. Deeply interested in a place for students, Todd organized a group of citizens who procured funds to create this student union. I've got a side note right now from Cynthia, which is really great. George Todd and George Eastman, colleagues and of similar ages, so resembled each other, they were often mistaken for each other. They were also the two most enthusiastic community supporters who promoted establishing a new campus for the university.
Bob Osborne, a graduate student in physics, invited speakers from the Cornell Gay Liberation Front in Ithaca and the Mattachine Society of the Niagara Frontier in Buffalo to come to discuss the formation of a Rochester Gay Liberation Front on October 3rd, 1970. He had already passed out flyers on campus and in the city at the gay bars, inviting people to come. Larry Fine, an undergraduate liberal arts student, attended that first meeting on October 3rd in Todd Union Lounge on the University of Rochester River campus. After Bob left the U of R to pursue his career, Larry would become the GLF office manager. Now, prehistory to that meeting, unknowingly, Larry posted this ad in the May 8th, 1970 issue of the Campus Times, the University of Rochester student newspaper. That was several months before the first meeting of GLF on October 3rd. It read, "Take heart, brothers, Gay Lib is coming." Larry at the time did not know Bob Osborne, and he placed the ad not knowing that there would be a first meeting in October. And so they began to know each other only after that first meeting. But from the group that attended that first meeting, there arose a small number of students and townies who would lead the organization. Along with Bob, there were Patty Evans, Karen Hagberg, R.J. Alcala, Whitey LeBlanc, and Walt Delaney. Bob, having been involved in the civil rights movement, was the driving force behind the Rochester Gay Liberation Front. It became one of many groups under the U of R student government, and as such, it received a room, 202 Todd Union, as its first office. This was where the GLF created its organizational structure, programming plans, visible actions, and where they began publishing a newsletter. After the FAGRAG name was suggested for the newspaper, the GLF newsletter was named The Empty Closet. And so the masthead reveals a door opening with the words "the empty closet" in it. The group settled on that name, and the EC is the oldest continuously published LGBTQ newspaper in New York State. It was published in the Gay Liberation Front Office 202D Union at Todd Union from January 1971 through May 1971.
So now we're going to take you back to Todd Union, and we've got a little video with Paul in the background and with Evelyn right at room 201.
Say something?
Yeah, say something.
201 became the Gay Liberation Front office after about 6 months. Originally, it was in 202D. Then it moved to 201D because it was much larger space for the publication of The Empty Closet and to do the work for the Speakers Bureau.
Great, thanks.
In June 1971, the office moved across the hall to room 201D, where the EC continued to be published under the Gay Liberation Front until July 1973, when the GLF split into students and townies. The EC moved with the townies, who officially formed the Gay Alliance of the Genesee Valley at 812 Brown Street. At that point, Jay Baker became the first editor of The Empty Closet.
So here's Maury Hall. Maury Hall, another of the original River Campus buildings, is also situated on the north side of the Eastman Quadrangle and adjacent to Rush Reese Library. Its distinctive design features a 2-story projecting portico with fluted Ionic columns and triangular pediment, set in a piano nobile design where the portico is located on the 2nd and 3rd stories instead of at ground 1st story level. The piano nobile design dates from Renaissance times when the principal rooms of a house or public building were set on the 2nd story. Now, Maury Hall is named for William Carey Maury, University of Rochester class of 1868. He was professor of Latin, history, and political science, and he also helped found the Rochester Historical Society. Evelyn has now walked over to Maury Hall, as you can tell by her virtual background.
And this is where this first Speakers Bureau presentation was to be on December 7th, 1970. When the GLF formed, they began doing speaking engagements to make themselves visible and known. Members of the Gay Liberation Front would speak to classes at the U of R, to organizations, high school classes, community groups, church groups, and other colleges, telling their story and explaining who and what being a homosexual is and like, what the issues were, and how those who were not gay could support them. Dr. Vincent Knowles' social psychology seminar, Sex and Gender Role, as you can see from the listing in the EC, was to be the first place that the Speakers Bureau on campus would speak. However, on December 7th, 1970, Dr. Knowles decided that the Gay Liberation Front would speak to his seminar, and he would hold that seminar in his home to avoid any conflict with the university and any backlash that might come afterward. The GLF speakers were R.J. Alcala, Larry Fine, and Karen Hagberg. In her presentation, Karen said, It is always a profound decision the homosexual must make concerning his or her choice of lifestyle. Denying one's homosexuality entirely often appears to be the easiest choice to make. In this case, an individual lives a life of physical chastity and mental fantasy, or he or she tries to engage in both the social and physical aspects of heterosexual behavior. Both choices clearly cause mental anxiety in the individual, accompanied with the familiar negative overreactions to other, more obvious homosexuals.
Just prior to the Speakers Bureau presentation, the U of R Gay Liberation and U of R Women's Liberation co-sponsored the first liberation dance in the Frederick Douglass Lounge in Todd Union, where you will notice that Evelyn is currently standing, as you can see in her virtual background.
And I'm not sure exactly that this lounge looks the same today as it does in this picture, but for Patty Evans and for many others, the first Gay Liberation Front dance on December 5th was extremely important on many levels. It brought people out. It brought people together. It brought a sense of community. In the first issue of the EC, January 1971, Patty Evans wrote about this dance. She says, "It was more than a dance. It was a unique experience in human interaction, free from the rules and regulations of a society that dictates to its people what is and is not natural for them." For Marshall Goldman, who was a member of the GLF and who attended that first dance, just a few months later in March, this open, exhilarating experience would be tainted by a hurtful incident of harassment in his dorm, Hoeing Hall.
So as Evelyn walks over to Hoeing Hall, I can tell you a little bit about the architecture. Located on the River campus's residential quadrangle, this was one of the most popular dormitories on campus. Dedicated in 1956, it is named for Charles Hoeing, professor of Latin and librarian, second dean of the College for Men, first dean of graduate studies. More restrained than the larger buildings on the Eastman quadrangle, this dormitory features a symmetrical plan that's highlighted by paired brick chimneys at the gable ends and roofline, and a one-story columned entrance portico.
Now, I am standing in front of the door to Hoeing Hall, through which a friend visited Marshall Goldman in his dorm. According to Marshall's account in the February-March 1971 EC, his friend was spotted by a couple of the uptight types. They quickly alerted a few more friends. They moved in and began their evening's entertainment. Marshall and his friend were locked in his room by having pennies jammed in the door. Firecrackers were set off on the windowsills, and pounding, heavy pounding on the door consistently. Finally, Marshall had to call the head resident to have the pennies removed so that his friend, who was very frightened, could leave. Marshall also stated, "I was extremely upset about what happened, and fortunately or unfortunately got drunk, which merely released my inhibitions and gave me the courage to spit at one of these jerks who had the biggest mouth. I missed, darn it. My glasses fell off and I didn't feel like hanging around to retrieve them. Several hours later, I found them in Hoeing Lounge with the following note: Mary, Mary, sex contrary, why does your wiener show? I think of boys and their hairy toys, and my pecker really grows. Marshall said very clearly that this comment and thousands like it, whether said to the face or behind the backs of gay people, are typical of the way in which uptight, straight people think. Only by showing them that this type of comment won't stop us from being ourselves and won't push us back in our closets can we maintain our dignity. Gay is good. The world is what you make it. Come out, stand tall, and spit if you have to. This incident of harassment was not just a single event. As Marshall wrote, whether said to the face or behind the backs of gay people, the attitudes and thoughts behind such actions do not and did not end on the U of R campus. The most blatant and horrific experiences occurred right here at the Eastman School of Music. And I'm standing in Kilburn Hall in downtown Rochester.
Right. So she got there pretty quickly, I gotta say. She got across campus, she got all the way over to Main Street and Gibbs, and there she is in Kilburn Hall. But I can take a few minutes here to pontificate on one of Rochester's premier cultural and architectural landmarks. Opened in 1922, the Eastman School of Music, Eastman Theater Complex's Italian Renaissance design was created by the same architects that designed the River Campus, Gordon and Kilburn, with McKim, Mead, and White of New York City as associate architects. Arguably the most famous architectural firm in America, McKim, Mead, and White also consulted on the design of George Eastman's mansion, built in 1905. The Eastman School Theater Complex was completed when the university was still located on Prince Street. Thus, the Italian Renaissance design of this cultural complex reflects the similar design of the university's other cultural center, the Memorial Art Gallery building. McKim, Mead, and White were also involved with that design. So there's this great story about the off-center position of the Eastman Theater entrance, located at the corner of Gibbs and East Main. It was the result of an obstinate property owner who wouldn't sell his East Main Street commercial property to the university. This forced the architects to set the main entrance and lobby in an off-center position, thus reducing the size of the lobby and creating a nearly century of bottleneck arrivals and departures, as I'm sure many of you may have experienced.
Kilburn Hall, on this first floor, is the way that you would get to the upper floors for classes and for offices. The elevators are to my right, back about 2 inches on the slide. But on that second floor, and if you look at the Eastman Theater and to the right and up to the second floor where the windows are above other windows, Flora Burton had her office on that floor. She was the Dean of Students at the Eastman School of Music from 1946 to 1972. She was alleged to have been extracting signed confessions under pressure from students, threatening to send the confessions to their parents or expel them if they didn't change their ways. These witch hunts happened. Allegedly, Flora Burton had spies who would report to her the names of students who were thought to be gay. The solution to this problem was for the student who is gay to be out and visible. And just for historical reference, there were letters to the editor in the May issue of the Campus Times about the harassment that was present at the Eastman School of Music. Now, in the months beginning in 1973, the GLF grew, but the number of Rochester City residents began to outnumber the student members of the GLF. The GLF was becoming more of a Rochester townies group than a student group. On April 8th, the University of Rochester GLF voted to reorganize into two autonomous bodies. The U of R students would continue to meet on the campus, while non-students would move to a location more convenient to townspeople in the city. The reorganization would become effective on July 1st. Until that time, both students and townspeople would continue to meet jointly.
And on May 6, 1973, it was decided that the name of the non-student organization would be the Gay Alliance of the Genesee Valley, which today is the Out Alliance. In honor of the Out Alliance, Evelyn and I are together again in our virtual backgrounds with pride flags.
The new location would be 812 Brown Street in the Bull's Head area of the city, which was offered as free space by Maury Hall, who has since died, a community businessman and GLF member. Ownership and publication of the EC was transferred to the Gay Alliance. The image that now appears on your screen is the first EC printed under the new name at the new address. The Gay Alliance of the Genesee Valley, July to August 1973, 812 Brown Street at Main Street West. The U of R Women's Liberation Group had already left the U of R campus in September of 1972 to form the Gay Revolution of Women. The women's group became the Lesbian Resource Center and took up residence at the Genesee Co-op at 713 Monroe Avenue. On April 1st, 1974, the Gay Alliance moved from Brown Street to where the co-op is today at 713 Monroe Avenue, to the second floor of the Genesee Co-op. And on that second floor, they had a room for the empty closet, and they had a meeting room, the Sunken Lounge, as it was called. Now, the Genesee Co-op finally was the home of both the women's and men's group, bringing them both under the umbrella of the Gay Alliance together in one place. They would remain at 713 Monroe Avenue for at least 15 to 20 years, till 1990. And at that point, they would move locations again. This is where our early history ends. And this is where our current history stands.
That's right. Our current history stands right here with this wonderful graphic from Homo Cats to vote. It's very important. I don't have to tell all of you who are watching it, I hope, but we have to get out for the vote. This is a very important year, and with that, I would like to invite Carol Ebersol Weiss to say a few words from the Human Rights Campaign.
Thanks, Larry. So yes, elections do matter. 1 month from now, we all have the opportunity to help set the course of our future. One candidate has vowed to pass the Equality Act, the LGBTQ addendum to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, in their first 100 days. The other candidate has vowed to continue to chip away at the LGBTQ community's hard-won rights and protections. We cannot let the efforts of those whose shoulders we stand on to have been in vain.
Great. Thanks, Carol. And at this point, I'd also like to invite Paul Allen to say a few words about ImageOut.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks to you and to Evelyn for that wonderful tour, and the Landmark Society for really curating this wonderful information. Thanks to Carol for all her tireless work in the community as well. Yeah, ImageOut is right around the corner, October 8 to 18, fully online this year with a handful of pop-up in-person events like getting popcorn, picking up cocktails, and we have a drive-in event on the closing night of the festival. You can go to imageout.org to get all the information. And, you know, it's a strange year, and I really hope that we can find some community together, even if we're remote like this. So thanks again, and yeah, wonderful tour. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So where is that? I'm trying to stop the share. There we go. Okay, so now we are all together again, and I would most especially like to thank Evelyn and for everything. Evelyn's the best. Let's give her a big hand. Yeah, thank you, Evelyn. And I really want to thank Paul and Carol for coming to join us for this take two, so that we could record it and have it out for everybody to watch. We're really thrilled to have great partners working on these walking tours. As I said, the City of Rochester, the Out Alliance, Shoulders to Stand On, the Landmark Society, ImageOut, and the Human Rights Campaign. So thanks everyone for being here. And I guess we're just gonna stop the recording.
Well, what we need to do is remind people
Yes.
of VOTE.
Yes,
Oh.
all of us.
Now,
Oh.
voter registration deadline is this Friday.
Yep.
Right.
Everybody needs to vote. Okay. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.